Welcome to Jumpstart Your Joy. I'm your host, Paula Jenkins. I invite you to join me as we explore how inspiring people have chosen joy in their lives and what they have to share with us about how to jumpstart joy in the world. Plus, how do we follow our own hearts, find work that lights us up while mindfully noticing the role joy plays in our own journey. Welcome to episode 138. This is Paula Jenkins, the host of Jumpstart Your Joy. This week on the show, you guys, I'm excited to have singer, songwriter, and musician Kerri Powers joining me. She has just released her latest album, which is entitled Starseeds. I'm so honored and delighted to have her here on the show this week to talk about her creative process, about getting honest and telling your truest story, and about how music is a connecting force. I just loved this conversation so much, especially when Kerri shares things like sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to find your true joy. So before we get to the interview, I want to give you guys a warm welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in this week and always. If you're new around here, Jumpstart Your Joy is a weekly show and it comes out on Tuesday mornings. You can find Jumpstart Your Joy on all of the regular podcasting spots like Player FM and iTunes and Spotify, just to name a few. If you'll search for Jumpstart Your Joy and hit subscribe, that would be great. And then you will get every episode very automatically downloaded to your mobile device each week. Also, special highlight for this week is if you are curious about starting your own podcast, maybe you listen to a bunch of them and wonder what it would be like or what it would take to start your own show. You guys, this is one of my very favorite topics to talk about with anyone, anytime. And so I would love to encourage you and point you to my podcasting fundamentals class, which is on the website, jumpstartyourjoy.com. And you can find the link at the top of the page under classes. And that's where I share, you guys will first get a download of all of my favorite products and tools and tricks, and even a code where you can get a couple of free months of hosting on Libsyn, which is the group that hosts my show. This week on the show, it's such a treat to get to speak with Kerri Powers, who really is as soulful as the blues music that she writes and loves so much. What I love about Kerri is that she has this deeply intuitive nature, and she is present like no one I've ever met. Truly, she is in the moment with you, and she speaks right from her heart. It's just a real treat to speak to someone who shares so openly about joy and the role it's played in her life, and also about how she can see music and sounds in a way that I've never heard anyone describe it before. So if you're curious about some of the things that we talk about, you'll want to grab the show notes for this, which are at jumpstartyourjoy.com/Kerri Powers. And it's Kerri. You'll find that on the homepage as well of the site this week. And I'm super honored that Kerri has allowed me to play a couple of her songs as we close out here. You're going to want to stay till the very end because I'm going to be playing two from her brand new album, Starseeds. First, at the end, you'll hear Somewhere on the Vine, which just captured my heart. And Freebird Flying is the other one that I'm going to play, which is a song she wrote about her mother. And you'll hear us talk about that one in the episode as well. So really, without further ado, let's get to that conversation with Kerri Powers. Welcome to the show. Today, I am so excited to have Kerri Powers on. Welcome to the show, Kerri.
Thank you so much for having me, Paula.
Yay! So Kerri is a musician, a singer-songwriter, and she is just releasing her brand new album, Starseeds. The first question, though, I ask everybody, Kerri, is what did you love most as a child or in school? What were your earliest sparks of joy?
Well, my earliest is probably going to seem really obvious, but anything having to do with music or art, those were I wasn't a fan of school. I did well, but I wasn't really a fan of the structure per se. So I think the music and art, color in general, I'm a synesthete, so I see colors when I write music and things. So I think really overall color, my first memories of any kind of color and the way that they were combined with art or music. So that for sure, that's the most memorable.
That is so cool. Can you explain a
Yeah.
little bit, what does that mean when you say that you see colors? I'm fascinated by this.
Oh, sure. It's funny how that came about. I never knew that I had what they call synesthesia. And friends of ours, my husband and I were out to dinner one night with them, and they were talking about, synesthesia in general. And I have always, from the time I was a little girl, as long as I can remember, I've always identified the days of the week or related them to a color. Like Mondays have always been a hunter green, Tuesdays have always been yellow, Wednesdays like a rose color red, so it just goes on from there. And I just assumed everyone else has done that as well, never really gave much thought to it. And then I took a battery test and I scored like a 93%. So it explains why when I play music, sometimes I see, it's very hard to describe, but I see like various patterns of color at times. It is rather fascinating. I guess I've taken it for granted because I've had it from the time I was a little girl, but even like, I see certain colors when I play a certain song, and I have a lot of vivid imagery when I'm writing. It's like these little vignettes or movies, these little movie trailers that are going on. So, yeah, I've always been that way, so I never really gave it much thought.
That's fascinating. It's funny because I haven't heard of that, but I can relate at some level of like,
Yeah,
sometimes when you're in a moment or when you hear a song, you're like, no, I can see what this song means. Like
exactly.
it's a country road,
Mhm.
and that might be a little bit obvious because John Denver, but
No,
like,
no, I know what you mean, but it's
same.
like a crossing almost.
Yeah.
Synesthesia, by definition, I believe, is like a crossing of the senses. Some
Mm,
people can, it's going to sound silly, but almost silly, but you can, like, some people can taste color. It's like a crossing of the five senses, which is really fascinating when you think about it.
it really is. Well, and it kind of makes sense that some things would just
Right.
be an obvious connection to in
For
some
sure, yeah.
ways. That is
Yeah.
so cool. I'm so glad you brought that up. And your path to getting into and playing music has had a few twists and turns, because you mentioned that you loved it as a child. How early did you start? And I don't know if you want to walk us through the path. It is fascinating.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's kind of I'll definitely, modify it for you, but I remember the earliest memory I have, I was like literally sitting on the end of my bed with my mother's harmonica. She used to play harmonica from time to time. And I just knew from the time I was little that that was going to play a huge role in my life. It's a very integral part of, I guess, of, who I am and stuff. So I started to play a little bit, and I started writing songs. Probably, I think I wrote my first song for a talent show. I started writing songs. I was probably about 9 years old, but I played my first, like, composition, my own song. I think I was maybe 12 or 13 in a school talent show, and I think I won like third prize or something. So, I've been this way from the time I was a kid. It wasn't something that I came into, later on. I've always been this way. Like I said, whether it be artistically on the visual art side or the music side.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then I just started to play. I actually did a couple of guest slots in country jamborees when I was super young. I was like 13 years old. I used to literally sneak in the back door of this, it was called the Double 12 Lounge at the time, and on
Mm-hmm.
Sunday afternoons they'd let me sneak in the back and play, a few songs with them. I used to do Tammy Wynette songs, and it was a blast. I really have always gravitated toward music of some kind, and I listen to all kinds of music. So it just kind of grew from that point. My mom is a huge Janis Joplin, like Bob Dylan, Bonnie Raitt, Creedence Clearwater, that kind of music, like the Woodstock generation, as it were. And my dad is more of an old country fan. He loves like Merle Haggard and Tammy Wynette. So it's sort of like a melding pot of those type of styles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And your voice is so beautiful. And there's a lot of uniqueness to your style, but I can see that there's other influences probably that are sneaking in as well.
Thank
Um,
you very much. Yeah, I think it's really important if you take your art seriously and you strive to be a better artist, which is what, that's the whole goal, is to rediscover things and to discover, new things as you move forward. But I think it's really important, in order to do that successfully, you have to keep an open mind to different styles, and while maintaining your own voice, so to speak, right? So for me, like, I've always gravitated toward blues. I love blues music. That's kind of first and foremost for me. I just, for some reason, have always, I don't know, I just love it. And every time I hear it, I think, yeah, it's right in the pocket with what really resonates with me soulfully. So again, it's just been a combination of the things that I naturally gravitate to and the things that I've been influenced by. It's a big melting pot of styles.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, for the blues genre, I don't know, what is it that draws you to it? Because I love that it is a mix of heartbreak, but there's also something so much deeper than that. What is it for you that makes it feel like home?
It just feels real. I mean, I know that sounds almost cliche, but there's something incredibly palpable about the stories. The hardships that people endured. I certainly can't relate to a lot of that on that level, but I think just the genuine quality of the music and the realness of it and, the brokenness of it. I've always been drawn to more, I guess, the darker side of things. I don't know if that's just because that's who I am by nature, as far as what I find interesting, because I really believe that there's a lot of beauty in that kind of darkness. There's a lot of joy that can come of that. These people that write these incredible songs have overcome so much, So I think, again, it's just stuff that we can all relate to on a universal level.
Yes.
Very palpable music, and it's, rhythmically and structurally, everything about it is just, I just love to live there, if that makes any sense. Like, that's
it
the place
does.
where I feel most comfortable there. So,
yeah.
So,
And that's so interesting, because I feel like the show, I mean, that's kind of one of the starting off points, is that out of the darkness, kind of, we can find ourselves in some ways. And then
absolutely.
once we've lived through it and found our way through it, there's a lot of joy and even more joy than before on the other side. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think, I've always been a firm believer, and I think everybody may have a different take on this, but I really believe sometimes you have to hit rock bottom in order to find that place of true joy and really know what that level of appreciation is. My analogy is you have to make a mess before you can clean the house, right?
Yes. I love that.
So so that's kind of where, I've just learned a lot from, and I certainly, again, I can't really relate to some of those real downtrodden, tough times that people have been through. I've been through my share for sure, but there's always someone that's been through worse.
Yeah. 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 And I totally know what you mean too about feel like you could live there. I mean, there's some songs that I love your choice of words, because I can relate to that so deeply, that you could just put on repeat and feel like you could live in. And I don't even really know what that fully means, but it's captured something so deep and wide that, you could almost step into it.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. That's to me, that's the true mark of a good songwriter, is when because songs are an incredible vehicle for connectivity, for human connectivity, and healing. And that's the true mark of a good artist. I think it's so important just to tell your truth and not be afraid of that level of vulnerability, because that's really where the joy and the beauty lies. It's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Great. One of the songs on your album that I just adored when I got to hear it is Freebird Flying.
Oh, thank you.
So good. And I know I heard in another interview with Jan Hall, I think, which I'll link up to, that song is about your mother.
Yes,
and that made me love it even more when I heard it.
Thank you. Well, that's precisely what I'm talking about when I say level of vulnerability. I put that song away. If you heard that interview, I put it away for a while, quite a while, and I just I trusted that, and came back to it when the time was right. And it was a hard song to write, because I was in a real vulnerable place when it started. I don't know what really jarred, or got it started in the first place, and I don't question that either. I just figure inspiration comes when and how it does. But It was a tough song to write, because I was in a really, like, a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the best songs come from, is our truth. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. The thing that struck me too is when you say that you're a visual artist, I feel like that transcends into that song so beautifully because I could see you in an ancient square as your mom flew as a
Thank you.
bird. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, I could see that with those words. And I don't know, is that what you were envisioning, or are you open to sharing
Yeah,
that part of it?
exactly. I mean, that's what I mean when I say, like, I have these little vignettes or movie trailers is the best way that I can
Yeah.
describe it. When I write, everything is a visual. Not sure how that works for other songwriters. I think everyone's a little different in their approach, but for me, what comes organically are these moving pictures in my mind, and as the story kind of reveals itself, there's always imagery there. So, and again, that song was incredibly vivid for me. Like the birds flying and the whole ascension and my sitting at the top of the stairs. I remember that, an actual flashback of when I was a little girl sitting at the top of the stairs and stuff. So, yeah, it was a pretty vivid song.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
I
much.
know. Yeah. Well, and I'd love to play it at the end of our conversation if that's okay with you.
Of course, sure.
Thank you. Yeah, tune in for that, folks, because it's a good one. And I know in my own experience, I have had what I totally could swear was my grandmother show up as a dove. So that was the other thing that I was like, oh, this is so like, it's one of those songs where it invites you in, and then you could, like you said, you could just live in it. It was just, thank you for writing
very
it.
much. Well, that's just it's a nice thing to hear, because I feel like when I hear folks say things like that, I've done my job, and how lucky am I to be able to do what I love and reach people on that level, right? It's an incredible thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is beautiful. You also chose a very special name for this album, Starseeds, and I was not familiar with the term. Would you explain what that means?
Sure. It's funny. A starseed is an empath from a different dimension. And I know sometimes when I explain that to people, they think, oh my God, this woman is like going hippy dippy on me. But I just thought it was the notion of a starseed, it's a beautiful sentiment, because we need a lot of empathy, especially right now, a lot of healing and connection. And I felt, as opposed to putting the focus on me, to say that, because that's how the whole term came about years ago. They actually said that I was a starseed, and I started laughing. I said, I'm not sure if that's good or bad. But when I did the research, I just thought it was such a beautiful sentiment. And as opposed to putting the focus on me, clearly, it's more about the songs being starseeds, because if they're written from an honest place, they're very healing and they're connecting. And so I just thought it was a really appropriate name or title for an album, because the songs I'm hoping will resonate in that way with people and bring people together,
Yeah. And that's the sense that I got from them too, is that they are kind of like a little prayer almost, each of them being put out for whomever is listening. Is there a larger hope for healing that you have with this album?
Well, it's funny, Paula, I never really have expectation in terms of what the result is going to be. I just work super hard, and my whole goal really in life is to just be the best artist I can be. I think, what I hope for is just, again, that people can connect with the songs, and if they heal even a small part of a person, or connect in a way that it brings somebody around to their own truth, that's all we could hope for, as artists and as songwriters. I just think that that's like a job well done if you can accomplish that. I don't necessarily think much beyond, I guess moment to moment. People will say one day at a time, but with me it's more like moment to moment, right? But wouldn't it be great if it did work on a larger scale, And if it does, bonus. So I just think that it's important that we continue to care for one another as a human race, and put that first, as opposed to money and all this other stuff that seems to be sometimes at the forefront,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be about humanity. It has to come down to that first. And I think, again, as an artist, that's our job, to bring that into light somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. And through your own experiences, kind of
Yeah.
like you're saying, state the truth that then maybe it will connect with other people and show them something of themselves too.
Absolutely. I just think, again, if you're honest with yourself as a writer, it's going to connect with somebody. It's going to, resonate with someone in the right way.
Yeah. Yes. And what is your favorite way, I don't know, to perform or connect as an artist? Obviously, albums are one way, but is there something you also love about the art?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I tend to be a little bit of a shy person in the sense that sometimes it's quite scary to perform in front of, large crowds. But I would say that the live performance for me is just an incredible experience. You talk about joy, right? It's like I just feel really blessed that folks will have me and that, I can connect with people on that level. The live performances are really important. I think for me as an artist and a vocalist, like the whole package, it's like apples and oranges, right? You can't compare like recording to live performances. But I just think if I had a preference, live is the way to go. It's just that I guess the spontaneity of it is really what I get a charge out of. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's an energy, obviously, with other people there participating in a connection, and yes.
Yeah, when you look out there, it varies. Some people look very serious, they're looking back at you like, what's going on here, and other people, for the most part, are smiling, or they're like, doing the head thing, bobbing the head back and forth. So it's just like, yeah, we're all in this together, man. It's a great feeling. So you can't capture that clearly in a recording studio.
No.
There's a lot of pluses to that, though, too. But I just think that, there's a lot of pluses to, like, recording in the studio and whatnot. Each thing has its positive. But I just think that the live performances, the whole spontaneity of it, and the experience is just undeniable. It's where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't perform often or with anything, but yeah, I love giving I love speaking. I love, but again, the podcast is fun because then it means there's other people that can join me.
For sure. Yeah.
I know you talk also about you have this deep drive to write and that sometimes can push you along. Mm-hmm. What has that looked like in your life?
Writing, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. How has that followed through kind of on your journey?
Well, I think it's really important, and I was never really a good songwriter. I'm not saying that I am now by any means, but I think I've definitely grown, into the craft, and I've worked super hard to kind of figure it all out, right? And I'm still not there. I think that's what's so exciting about it is the whole process, but I really have to remain active on the writing side. I do a little blogging. I do a lot of, just personal writing, or I'm really diligent about trying to keep the songwriting going. I don't force write. I've never been one to do that. I greatly admire folks that can staff write, like the folks down in Nashville and stuff. I have a lot of respect for people that can do that. But I think writing just goes hand in hand, again, with the whole level of creativity. I think it's just an art form, and I have to remain active in it, all the time. It's very consistent for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I get the sense that maybe writing a song and writing, say, a blog post, are those two different touch points for you?
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that the commonality is, again, the honesty and the, just putting yourself out there, so to speak. But I think songwriting is a completely different structure craft-wise. I mean, you have a very limited amount of time to say what it is that you really, to speak your truth, so to speak. So it's a completely different craft. But what I love about songwriting is the challenge of, like, it reminds me of doing like a New York Times crossword puzzle. It's not an easy thing to do. And when you figure some stuff out and you get there, like the end result, and you know that it's right, and you're being completely honest, and it's, it feels really good. It's got that soulful feeling, it's an amazing feeling, and it's such a gift. So, but I think the other is just as important, like to keep a blog or to keep a journal. I think one kind of feeds the other,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm just getting this sense that there probably is, as you finish a song, there's that sense of this has hit its completion point and now it's ready. But it sounds like there's some others that maybe sit and simmer for a while.
Yeah, I just, I've learned I used to just throw ideas away or throw things out, and for years I've had this thing called a puzzle box. It's more of a mental puzzle box, but it's also just a folder or a notebook of all these different little ideas that I might jot down, or phrases, or even words. But I've learned not to throw things away because there's a reason why they're there, why they're manifested in the first place, So I've learned to kind of respect that a little more. And again, I don't force things. If something's not working, I'll take the dog for a walk, or I'll, go off for a little while and do something completely different and come back to it. It's kind of like the analogy of, like I said to Jan, in that other interview at Folk Roots, that you have to learn to let a painting dry overnight because it's going to look completely different once it's dry.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it really is the creative process. I mean, as you're saying that too, I'm thinking about an interview that I did with Vitaly Beckman, who's a magician, and he talks about that same thing of like he'll get to a certain point with an illusion and then realize, wait, this isn't quite where I want it to go, and so he'll set it aside and go do something else. And I never really, I mean, I guess magic is an art form, but I just never even thought about how you craft something, and that the creative process is so similar for all different kinds of artists.
And I can totally relate to that. I mean, to say that it's magic, I mean, that's where the magic is. The magic is it's right in the pocket of believing in it enough, putting your faith in it enough to let it dry overnight, trusting that process. You have to learn to really trust your process. I think that's key. And I think that comes with experience. It comes with time.
Yeah. And do you have any, I don't know, thoughts for people who are maybe at the beginning part of their own journey with probably any creative art, and they don't quite feel like they can trust the process yet? How do they get there?
That's a tough question because I think everybody's individual. I know myself, and I'm pretty open about it. I'm not always easy on myself. I'm pretty hard on myself at times, and I think, the advice that I would give, in retrospect, just for my own process, like I would tell people, be as easy on yourself as possible and leave every window open for just any idea to fly in, and just trust those ideas because they come for a reason. There's a purpose for everything, and not to shut things out, not to excuse something because you feel like the general population isn't going to accept it. Again, if it's your truth and it's honest and it's coming from that place, it will touch people in the right way. So I guess that's the only thing I would say, and to just be really diligent about your craft. If you love what you do it as often as possible.
Yeah. Yes, that's good stuff. I think it's easy for people to feel the discomfort of this doesn't feel right, or I don't know what to do next, and then to kind of walk away from it, which is.
I think that uncomfortable feeling is key. I think you have to go through that. You have to, and that happens a lot. I mean, I think no matter how experienced we are, I think there has to be some level of discomfort in order to get to the next place with it. Like you have to kind of go through that. It's all part of the process because that's what's going to bring you to a really great place, like a really cool result, or wow, this was nothing like I expected it to be, and it ended up being this way as a result of that level of being uncomfortable with it,
Yeah.
That's part of it. You just have to trust all of that emotional baggage, I guess you'd call it, on some level.
Yeah
It
is. That's interesting. It is emotional baggage that usually is then murking up the waters or whatever. I'm just reflecting on that myself.
It's all like a mind thing, when that all comes into your head. It's like sometimes it's perceived as negative energy, but I just think all of that is necessary in order to grow with it and to land at a really good place with it.
Yes.
Result, yeah.
That is beautiful. Let's see. I also really enjoyed, I'm going to ask this, your pledge, the pledge site that you're using for pre-sales. There's this hilarious video of you doing, I think it's you doing an impression of Julia Child and Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, thank you. It's
It's
silly.
so
I was
good.
really reluctant to put that out there because I thought,
Really?
oh yeah. But I'm just, I'm kind of I don't know. I'm a little crazy. Like if you lived in my house, you'd say, "Oh dear." Most days it's interesting. I guess like there's never a dull moment. But sometimes I'm at the point now where years ago I used to kind of conceal that because I would think, oh, it's kind of goofy or people aren't gonna really laugh at it or think it's funny. But I'm just at a point in my life now where I'm like, you just gotta let it all hang out and enjoy it, right? So yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the honest reaction for me was I was laughing my butt off, and I was like, "Wait, is that her?"
Good. Yeah, a lot of
Because
people
there's, like,
really enjoyed it, and I think again
Very
that's the whole point, right? Like people really enjoyed it. I got a lot of positive feedback for it, and in retrospect, I guess I'm glad that I did do it. And I thought it was kind of an interesting way to put it out there because I haven't seen a lot of that before. So it just I was being more honest with myself in the sense of just do it your way and don't worry about how everyone else is going about this,
Yeah, and I loved the playfulness of it, and like this is
Thank
just kind
you.
of, I don't know, quirky and fun, and I love to do a
It
Carol
was,
Channing
yeah.
impression whenever I can. So I think we all have that side of ourselves where we like to do, kind of the
Right.
unexpected.
I know, yeah, it is, and it's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
Certainly something I'm going to want to remember when I'm older, and those are the things you kind of look at too, the things that you can revisit as you get older and really find you get a kick out of or a charge out of it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and it really is. Another guest called it a pocket of santosha, but that's a word for contentment.
Yeah.
It's a yoga term, but like it felt like one of those moments where you just said yes and like went for it, and then like we're all connecting over it and enjoying and loving in it too. So
exactly, and that's key. That's where it's at, is that connection. So
yeah, you're also, so the new album comes out May 4th, Starseeds, and are you going to continue to tour with the album? I know you've been on the East Coast a bit. Will the tour continue?
Yeah, we've got a lot of tour dates coming in, and I'm real excited to get out there. I just feel really, again, blessed that I can get out. I'm touring right now with the Weight Band, and they're guys that are original members of the band, with Levon Helm, and I just feel like it's a great match in the sense that their audiences have been super warm and receptive to the music that I'm putting out there. And it's been an interesting journey. So we're gonna continue, probably gonna tour right through the year and into next year and see where that brings me,
Yeah, fun. Will you be on the West Coast at all?
Well, I'm hoping to get out that way. I have a sister in LA. She's been living out there now for about 20 years, and I'm ashamed to say, but I've never been out there. So it's about the only place I haven't toured, Paula. So I'm long overdue, and I'm hopeful. Hopeful we'll get out that way for sure.
Well, San Francisco would love to have you, Kerri. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know I'd love to visit there as well. So you never know.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'd be fun to meet you too.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of last questions that I ask everyone, but why don't we talk a little bit about where can people find your album, and if they want to be in touch, where can they find you?
Sure. Thank you so much. They can find the album. I mean, it's going to be available everywhere as of May 4th. You could pre-order it now on iTunes, or you could simply just visit me via the website. It's Kerri Powers, Kerri, powers.com, and you can certainly reach me. I do have an email. I'm not always, around. Especially as of late, I'm not around a lot in terms of getting back to people right away, but I do have a general mailbox on the website that people can reach me. and I'd love to hear from folks. So,
Hey, I will link up to all that in the show notes too. If people are
great.
If you're out there driving, you can find it later.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, so here's the last two questions. Where have you seen resistance come up in your life, and how have you dealt with it or overcome it?
That's a great question. Well, I think a general answer to that. My initial response is that I think we all come up with resistance at various times throughout our life. So it's not just one time in particular. But I think, just to relate it to our discussion today, I was married for 20 years, and he was a real good person. I talk like he's gone, but he's still very much here. A really good person, but just the support level just wasn't there. And I made the decision the right decision, obviously, to raise my son and kind of put my creative endeavors on the back burner. It was very hard to do. And, I haven't always, in terms of just resistance overall, I haven't always had the support or the understanding. I've literally had people say, you need to get a quote-unquote real job. Well, this is a real job, and I've believed in it my entire, life pretty much. So there's been a lot of resistance on that side, but I've always had this real strong constitution, from a very, what I'd like to consider a really soulful place that's just allowed me to continue. And I'm a fighter. I'm not somebody that just, I'm definitely not a quitter,
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that it's really important for people to have faith in themselves. And I think that's a tough thing to do, but you have to surround yourself with people that do believe in you, that love you unconditionally, and that are willing to get behind you. And I have a remarkable team behind me right now. I have a very supportive family right now and a great team of folks that are working with me. And I really feel that makes all the difference. I have a wonderful manager, great booking agent, and just good people overall, yourself. I mean, people that have come to the table that take interest in what I'm doing. And that's how you overcome things, but by coming together. Again, it's all about humanity. So,
Yeah.
Love
that. And there is something so beautiful about the connection.
Absolutely.
And knowing how important the people both near and even a step out in the in the orbit, if you will,
well,
all
it's
of them
true.
make a
I mean,
difference.
and I think sometimes it's we have to be mindful that it's not about us per se. It's about more of a collective. Some people get and we all do. I think it's human nature where we can become very self-absorbed and kind of locked into that inward thing. And once you let go of all that and you realize that it's about us collectively, that's when positive changes arise, and that's when good things really start to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. And then our last question is, what are 3 ways you can think of to jumpstart joy in your life, in the world, or in other people's lives?
Well, I mean, the first obvious answer is art and music, culture. It brings a lot of color and a lot of joy into people's lives. I think really importantly is just getting up every day and being in a place of gratitude as much as possible. Even if things don't seem like they're going well, you might have a bad week or a bad day, remain in that place of gratitude for the things that are going well, because it makes all the difference, as applied to the more, I don't want to say negative, but the things that aren't going so well. It just makes a difference. And I think love, just unconditional love, and not being afraid to show that to people, help somebody out when they least expect it, even in something as mundane as a grocery store. Just give more. I think we need to give more and not be afraid to do that. A great feeling in that.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Kerri.
you.
It's been a real treat.
Thank you. It has for me as well, Paula. I certainly appreciate your time.
Do you ever go to bed with nights from the house on Elmore Street? We light fires in winter, and by summer Morgan Stanley. Little left to talk about between sacred ears and wine. Left us hanging soul in hand somewhere on the vine. Somewhere on the vine. We just lost our place. Wandered from the compass and the climb before we made our way. I got tired of waiting for truth to follow lies. Found a way to cultivate good love. Stretch years down 515, changed my heart and kept my name. I'm sleeping better nights, and in the morning I don't expect pain. Every tear and broken soul leaves me wiser to the time. Led me to the one I'll shine and fade with somewhere on the vine. Somewhere on the vine. We all lose our place. Wander from the compass and the climb before we make our way. I got tired of waiting for truth to follow lies. Found a way to cultivate good love somewhere on the vine. Whoa, bittersweet, tangled up round the trees. I got tired of waiting for truth to follow lies. Found a way to cultivate good love somewhere on the vine. Somewhere on the vine. I know your life's been hard. You suffered through the hours alone. Painted through the fear in shades of color all your own. The picture was so clear to me others didn't want to see. You'll always be a free bird flying. What happened to my eyes? Was I blinded by my love or your pain? Though many years have passed, I find myself back there again, at the top of those old stairs again, waiting out the fight again, watching every free bird flying. Blue skies, good faith is on the rise, circle round an old clock tower, and when journey leaves us tired, land where love resides. Time has set me here, standing in this ancient square, collected photographs. You might never make it here, to hear the minstrel winds at night. Just one prayer in this holy light, answered by a free bird flying. Blue skies, good faith is all rise, circle round an old clock tower, and when journey leaves us tired, we'll land where love resides. And I love you. I love you.
Kerri, thank you so much for joining me this week. It's been such a treat to have you on the show, and I hope that you guys all enjoyed those 2 songs that we played. If you want to find out more about Kerri or her music or links to the things that we talked about, you can find show notes for this one at jumpstartyourjoy.com/Kerri Powers. Next week on the show, I am super excited. It is time for another Friendpreneur series, which is when I have friends on that are entrepreneurs. And this coming week is Donia Bumgarner, and she is a coach and also has a podcast. We worked together on her show when she was just starting out, and her show is Nurturing Habit. It's just an amazing podcast. You're going to love this conversation because we talk shop all about podcasting and some of the ins and outs. So if you're curious about that, please do tune in. So I hope you come back next week for Friendpreneur Week. And until then, I hope that your days are filled with so much joy.